3 shots. That's usually how a horror story starts. But on the morning of August 5th, 1993, there were no gunshots. There were no screams for help. There was just the sound of the wind and the sound of 6 healthy, experienced hikers losing their minds, one by one. In less time than it takes to watch this video, an entire expedition team was wiped off the face of the earth. I want you to picture the scene. It's early morning in Siberian wilderness. A 17-year-old girl named Valentina is standing behind a rock, shaking. She isn't hiding from a bear. She isn't hiding from a gunman. She is hiding from her best friends. 50 feet away, she watches the group leader, a woman with 30 years of survival experience, suddenly drop her backpack, fall to her knees, and start tearing the clothes off her own body. Another hiker is grabbing his throat, clawing at his own skin until it bleeds. A third is bashing his head against a stone over and over again. Valentina stands there, frozen. She knows that if she goes down there to help them, she dies too. But she also knows that she is breathing the exact same air they are. Russian officials would later list the cause of death as hypothermia. But look at the photos. Look at the bodies. People freezing to death don't bleed from their eyes. They don't foam at the mouth. And they certainly don't die in 11 minutes flat. Something else happened on that mountain. And to understand why a group of experts suddenly self-destructed, we have to look at the one thing the police ignored. We have to look at the map. Most people think of the Dyatlov Pass incident when they hear about mysterious Russian deaths. But what happened in the Khamar Daban Mountains makes Dyatlov look like a fairy tale. This wasn't a group of amateurs. This was a masterclass in survival. Meet Lyudmila Korovina. She wasn't just a hiking instructor, she was a machine. In the Soviet hiking community, she was known as the Iron Lady. She didn't believe in comfort, she believed in discipline. She trained her students to survive on minimum food, to pack light, and to keep moving no matter what the weather did. This philosophy is important. It's the reason they felt safe. They had a system. On the map, their route was a grade 3 difficulty. Hard, but manageable. They were well-equipped, they were young, and they were led by the best. For the first few days, everything was perfect. They made good time, they laughed, they took photos. But on August 4th, the normal world began to crack. A massive cyclone hit the region. Cold rain turned into heavy, wet snow. This is the kind of weather that kills you slowly. It soaks your gear, then it freezes it. And here is where the first mistake happens. It wasn't a slip on a rock, it was a decision. Korovina, the expert, decided to set up camp right here. Look at the topography. She stopped on an exposed, treeless peak. Just 4 kilometers down the slope, there was a forest, there was firewood, there was shelter. But she made them stop in the open, in the wind, in the snow. Why? Her students later said she wanted to toughen them up. She wanted to test their endurance. They set up their tents on the naked rock. They had no fire. They ate a cold breakfast. They went to sleep, shivering. They thought they were just uncomfortable. They didn't realize they were already dying. Because while they were sleeping, the trap was closing. It wasn't a monster stalking them from the woods. It was a biological time bomb ticking inside their own bodies. And the next morning, the timer hits 0. Let's dismantle the hypothermia theory right now. Hypothermia is slow. It's a sleepiness. You get tired, you sit down, you drift off. That is not what happened at 11 a.m. The breakdown began with Sasha. He was 24, strong, the muscles of the group. As they were packing their tents to leave, Sasha screamed. It wasn't a scream of pain, it was a scream of terror. He turned to the others, his eyes wide, and suddenly, blood started streaming from his ears. He fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth. Korovina, the leader, rushed to him. She began checking his vitals, trying to clear his airway, but in seconds, she stood up, grabbed her own chest, and collapsed. This is the moment the system of the group shattered. In survival situations, panic is the killer. But this wasn't just panic. This was contagion. The remaining hikers saw their two strongest members fall, and then the madness hit them too. One girl, Tatiana, started pulling off her jacket, then her sweater, then her shirt. This is a phenomenon known as paradoxical undressing. When your body is in the final stages of freezing, your brain misfires. It tells you that you are burning up. You feel incredibly hot, so you strip. In -20 degrees, you strip. But here is the detail that doesn't fit the pattern. While Tatiana was stripping, she was also banging her head against a rock. She wasn't just hot, she was hallucinating. Valentina, the 17-year-old, was the furthest away. She stood by her backpack, watching the dominoes fall. Sasha was dead. Korovina was choking. Tatiana was screaming. The other two boys ran, not away from the danger, but in circles. They were disoriented, stumbling like they were drunk. Valentina did the only thing a rational human being could do. She ran. She grabbed her sleeping bag and sprinted down the mountain, away from the screaming, down towards the tree line that Korovina had ignored the night before. She spent the night alone in the dark, under a tree, listening to the storm. Now pause for a second. Put yourself in her boots. You are 17. You just watched your entire world collapse in 10 minutes. You are alone in the Siberian wilderness. The smart thing to do is to keep running. But Valentina didn't do that. The next morning, she did something incredibly brave and incredibly haunting. She walked back up. She had to know, were they still alive? Could she save that? She crested the ridge and saw the camp. Nothing had moved. The tents were still half collapsed, and the bodies were exactly where they had fallen. Sasha, Korovina, Tatiana, they were frozen solid. But it was their faces that stopped her cold. They weren't peaceful. Most frozen bodies look like they are sleeping. These bodies looked terrified. Their faces were twisted in agony. Whatever killed them, it hurt, and it was fast. Valentina realized there was no one left to save. She took a compass and a map from the dead body of her leader, and she turned around. She had to walk out of hell alone. It took 4 days. 4 days of following power lines, dodging bears, and sleeping in the mud. When kayakers finally found her on a riverbank, she couldn't speak. She just stared through them. When the police finally recovered the bodies a month later, the autopsy should have closed the case. Instead, it blew it wide open. The medical examiners found the usual signs of hypothermia, but they also found something that shouldn't be there. They found bruised lungs, they found signs of protein deficiency, and they found that the hikers' hearts had stopped with a violence that natural cold can't explain. This brings us to the two theories that actually make sense, the theories the government didn't want to talk about. Theory number 1, the invisible weapon. The Khamar Daban mountain range isn't just a hiking spot, it's a zone of extreme atmospheric pressure changes. Some researchers believe the shape of the mountain, combined with the high winds of the cyclone, created a phenomenon called a Kármán vortex street. Basically, the wind hits the peak and creates infrasound, a low-frequency sound wave that you can't hear, but you can feel. At high enough decibels, infrasound vibrates the human eyeball, causing visual hallucinations. It vibrates the inner ear, causing extreme nausea and panic. It can literally drive you insane before it kills you. It fits the timeline. The wind picked up, the madness started. Sasha screamed because the sound was tearing him apart from the inside. But there is a second theory, darker and much more physical. Nerve gas. Siberia is vast, it's empty, it's the perfect place to test things you don't want the world to see. Symptoms of certain neurotoxins include foaming at the mouth, bleeding from the nose and ears, convulsions, and cardiac arrest. If the wind shifted and a pocket of gas from a test site or even a natural release from the ground washed over the campsite, it would hit them all at once. It would explain why they died in minutes. It would explain the blood. But if it was gas, why did Valentina survive? Maybe she was just a few feet outside the cloud. Maybe her position behind the rock saved her. Or maybe it really was just the cold, combined with a leader who pushed them until their bodies had zero energy left to fight. We caught the details, we have the photos, we have the survivor. But looking at the case of the Khamar Daban hikers, you realize that we never caught the monster. The mountain is still there today, beautiful, silent, and waiting. It doesn't need a gun to kill you. It doesn't need a ghost. Sometimes all it needs is the wind, the cold, and 11 minutes of bad luck.